Welcome to Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where you get unconventional insights into retirement and lifestyle design that actually work. You don't have to settle for the same tired Wall Street advice. Break away from the herd and learn how to achieve the retirement lifestyle of your dreams. And now, here's your host, the income engineer, Kraig Strom.
All right, hello. I am Kraig Strom, yes, the income engineer, broadcasting from my Personal Pension Radio studio workshop here in Southern California. And if you haven't been to personalpensionradio.com, that is where I do keep all of the back shows, all of the show notes, if we've got them, any links that you might be interested in. Now, the website is going to be under construction, and if we're missing anything there, don't worry, contact me directly. You can find me, if you spell my name correctly, Kraig with a K, K-R-A-I-G, Strom, S-T-R-O-M. You'll find me in 50 different places on the web, but you can get me through LinkedIn. You can also contact me through the Personal Pension Radio website. And please do ask anything, send in your questions. I've got listener questions and so forth today, so I love that. Really appreciate it. Now, I do want to actually jump in. Today's going to be a short, right-to-the-point episode. Always like a reminder, though, to make sure that you know what the basic driving idea is behind my podcast. It is around the topic, or the podcast is around the topic of retirement income planning. And a little background I thought would be important today. I don't share it all the time. Someone asked me recently, how did you become the income engineer and where did that come from? Well, I am 18 plus years in financial services, and I'll tell you that when I started in financial services, there was very little discussion about retirement income planning, little if any actually. And essentially what it was is the solution to retirement was save more money. The solution to sending your kid to college was save more money. If you want to buy this, buy that, do this, you just need to save more money. There was no discussion about the economics of retirement income planning. And that was something that I found years ago. I was just adding to my education, researching, learning. I was in a class with someone who specialized in retirement income, and they were just speaking a foreign language to me. And remember, I've been trained, basically classically trained financial advisor and then certified financial planner. And here I am sitting in yet another class to get continuing education, and I'm listening to this guy talk about the economics of retirement income, and he's speaking a foreign language. I'm like, I have never heard some of this stuff before. It just amazed me that I'd been a financial advisor for so long, and I'd never heard any of this come from the training and education sources that come to just people like myself in the financial services industry. And what I found was that Wall Street doesn't spend a great deal of money teaching people, you and me and the general public. It doesn't spend a great deal of money teaching how to take money out of the Wall Street machine. And that's what retirement income is, right? Retirement income is essentially drawing money down out of the Wall Street machine. So I ask this question when people approach me, or people will comment, hey, Kraig, I've never heard some of these things before. I've never heard any of this before. Why haven't I heard about the principle of reverse dollar cost averaging? Why have I never heard about sequence risk, about the Monte Carlo simulation? Why am I not ever hearing this? And my response is a question, and I want you to think about it as we begin today. Does Wall Street, does the financial machine have any financial incentive to teach you how to take money out of their system? Of course not. It's not insidious. It's not, some big bad scheme. It's just good business. That there's no monetary benefit for the Wall Street machine to spend a ton of money teaching people how to best take money out of their system, right? So there's really very little education provided to the financial advisory community, and therefore virtually no education provided to the general public that really teaches retirement income economics. So that's what this show is about. The show is about that conversation that's just not being had with your investment advisor. And I would challenge you this. Challenge. Here it goes. If you have not asked your financial advisor for your retirement income projections, I challenge you to go do that sooner than later. Go talk to your investment advisor and say, based on the amount of money that we plan to save and the amount of money that we plan to increase in our savings after our kids are done with college and et cetera, how much income can we expect from our investment accounts when we turn 60 or 65? I challenge you to go ask that question, because what I'm finding is lately, some folks who listen to this podcast and who know me personally, they've started asking that question. They've actually gone to their financial advisor and said, hey, if I save a ton of money like you tell me to plan for retirement for the next 15 years, how much income can I have? And the financial advisor is putting them into the standard Wall Street retirement income discussion and coming back with some really disappointing numbers. The Wall Street income conversation is not a terribly exciting discussion. It's just not. So I challenge you to go out there and ask that question. And then when you find out, let's say, I'll give you an example. This is a true story, and I'll just use simple numbers. The numbers were larger, but let's just say this is what happened. Someone that I know actually locally heard me make this challenge publicly in a meeting. I said, go talk to your financial advisor and ask them how much income I can have. And he approached me later and said, our projection was to have $1 million. In his case, it was a larger number, but I use $1 million for easy math. $1 million at our retirement timeline. And it was 15 years away. 15 years away. $1 million. And I said, well, good. So how much income did your financial advisor say that you could have? And he said, well, he did exactly what you said. He ran something called a retirement income analysis calculator, like Monte Carlo simulation, just all these things that you said he would do. He did. And I said, what's the number? And he came back and said $40,000 a year. $40,000 a year on $1 million. $1 million invested. He's being told that he should start his retirement income withdrawal from his $1 million pile at $40,000. Well, I'm here to tell you, this guy and his wife make a whole lot more than $40,000 a year right now. And $40,000 15 years from now was a shocker. It was a total shock. Not a happy camper, okay? Not a happy camper at all. So I encourage you to go out there. I challenge you. Go and ask your financial advisor for your retirement income projection. Not how big your 401k will be, not how big your investment account will be. The size of your investment account is not nearly as important as the income it can provide you. That's what you need to find out. And this show is all about the conversation around optimizing retirement income. And I'm here to tell you, and I say it every time, optimizing retirement income does not happen with a product. It does not happen with investments. It doesn't happen with life insurance or real estate or annuities or 401ks. It doesn't happen with Roth IRAs. None of these things by themselves will help you optimize retirement. But if you actually put a plan in motion, hopefully early enough, you put a plan in motion with an integrated approach to all of these assets, you can actually have maximum income in retirement, whatever your maximum is. It's entirely possible. So if you take my challenge and you go speak to your financial advisor and ask about retirement income and you don't like the answer, please then come back to me and let me help you with a retirement income analysis from someone who specializes in making that a much better number. Now, Disclosure, disclosure, disclosure alert. I am not an attorney. I am not a CPA. I am a certified financial planner professional. But even though I am, as I might think, a highly qualified certified financial planner, please don't act on things that you hear on this show as if you are getting personal advice. You're not. You need to meet with someone like myself directly so that we can go over your specific situation. And please, dear goodness me, do not act on things that you hear from financial entertainers like Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman and people on the radio and TV who have no licensing oversight to protect the general public from their advice. Please don't act on those things. Please meet with a qualified financial planner. Sit down, go over your situation. Now, for me, I work with folks all over the country, right? I'm licensed in multiple states around the country, and through the miracles of technology today, the world is very small. So I've got folks from this podcast that are as far away as Alaska and Texas and Tennessee and just all over the country. It's just great to have the opportunity to work with folks now through technology. Now, let's jump right in. The first segment, watch your step. Watch your step. This area today is going to be kind of a bit of a lightning round. It just seems like it kept hitting me all week up until I'm recording this. It's just these questions coming in. And I think it has a lot to do with the stock market, being up at a nice all-time highs, and it's bouncing up and down around all-time highs again. And the real estate market where I am in Southern California is just booming again. And I'm getting these questions in conversation and directly. So here's a question. Kraig, what should I invest in? Who said that you should invest was my first question. Well, I mean, the market's just doing great. I mean, what should I invest in? How should I allocate my investments? And I said, well, who said you should invest? I reiterated my question again. Who said you should invest? And what it came down to with this person asking me, it was just sort of like, well, that's what everybody else is doing. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Well, I started asking questions, and I returned back with a lot of questions. And I said, well, what happens? I just think about this. What happens when the stock market rises and goes up and up and up for years after years after years? What eventually happens? Right. It takes a correction. It goes back in the other direction. The roller coaster doesn't always go up. And I've talked about this a few shows ago. There's this inside Wall Street terms called smart money and dumb money. Smart money is generally considered to be the institutional investors, the big wirehouses, mutual funds, pension companies. These are big companies that have professional money management, and they're watching and checking the pulse of the world and the markets full time every day. That's smart money. They know what's going on. Dumb money is just the general public following the herd, getting excited about the market going up, and I got to jump on that bandwagon. Well, the smart money loves the dumb money, because the smart money watches the dumb money just jump in and invest at the top, while the smart money is preparing to sell. So please, think about it just from a simple, common sense economics. Is it the right time to invest at the top of a market? Really? Or is it maybe time to be more cautious, that maybe someday we will actually crest the top and start on our downside correction? It's coming. When is it coming? I don't know. But is now the time really to invest at the top of a market? Same thing goes for real estate. Folks are asking me, I want to buy a rental property. This is another question. I want to buy a rental house this year, Kraig. Is that a good idea? Well, why do you want to buy a rental house? Well, I want rental income. I said, well, rental income is one thing. Do you want net rental income, net operating income in the black? Do you actually you're going to be okay if you're upside down and you're not actually turning a profit? Well, no. So So what you're going to do is you're going to buy a rental home at the top of a market, and the rent based on the value of that property, you might only be making a 3 or 4% return, and that's on a gross basis. And if you had one air conditioner blow up on that property, you might wipe out your rate of return for a couple of years, and you got to come up with $10,000, right? Oh, yeah, I never really thought about it that way. They had no plans to get out, no plans to think through it, right? It's just, oh, the market's hot, I should buy a rental house. Now, please keep in mind, I'm not suggesting that buying a rental house is always the wrong thing to do at the top of the market. And if you're in a market, for example, let me give was a good one, like Los Angeles. You look at a market like Los Angeles. Well, Los Angeles doesn't have a lot of additional dirt. What I mean by that is there's not gigantic housing projects in and around Los Angeles being built with brand new houses because it's full up. They don't have a lot of land anymore. So if you were to buy a rental property, the value of the property could be relied upon, probably pretty certain, to go up over the next 10 or 20 years. The challenge is, will your rental income go up so that you can actually have a less risky net operating income? Because if your net operating income, if you're lucky enough to have one, is not high enough, to cover the future repairs and floods and air conditioners and things that could go wrong with the property, that rental property could be a big risk. So buying rental property, not a bad idea. Buying rental property generally at the top of a real estate market, you got to be careful. And in this person's case, when I asked why, well, I thought it was a good idea. The market's hot right now. I want to jump in. Same principle. Do we buy at the top of the market cycle? Well, smart money says no. Smart money tries to sell out at the top of the market cycle and buy in on the bottom, right? Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, one more. This one actually came in at a meeting that I was at, just a social meeting, and this gentleman was just talking along. He's 65 years old, and he was just talking to us as a group, but I just couldn't help but chime in. He basically says he's 65 years old, and his retirement account investments have done great in the last few years, and he actually mentioned when someone else responded, wow, man, the market's up so high. What are you doing? And he says, I don't have any plans to get out. No plans to sell out. No plans to take any money off the table. He's just happy with his investment guy. He's done really well the last few years. And he's 65, folks, and he has no plans to take any money off the table. Wow, again, smart money, dumb money. Smart money gets off the ride at the top of the hill and then waits for the correction and then gets back in. This guy's 65 with his retirement money sitting there at the top. It's risen up over the last 3, 4, 5 years. Now might be a really good time to take some off the table, because if the market does take a 10 or 15, let's say a 15% correction, that's not crazy. It's not a big end of the world like 2008 kind of a correction. But if it does take a 15% correction, remember, in order for this guy who's got his retirement life in these investments, in order for him to break even, the market has to rise 30%. 15% drop has to come up 30% plus to break even. You can't risk that, folks. Smart money would get out. I would suggest that smart money would get out in that kind of a situation, or take some of that gain off the table and protect your retirement nest egg, right? So please, that's what I want you to just think about, because that leads to this piece. It made me think of this, is that no one really teaches how to build a financial house correctly. No one teaches this. Wall Street doesn't teach it. Here's the basics. You ready? Here's the basics. If you're driving replay this later, write this down, post it on the wall. Just remember this, okay? Super simple. Let's build a financial house. First thing that happens on any housing build project is that they put up a safety fence. They put up a protective fence around the project before anybody starts building. Pay attention to that. When you're out there driving by a construction project, they most likely have a safety fence of some kind, a barrier around the project. Why do they do that? Well, they do that so that little Jimmy doesn't fall in the well and sue the builder. They do that to protect the equipment on site. They protect the project first. Then, what's the next thing that goes in? The first solid thing that goes in on a housing project is a good foundation, a strong, solid foundation. That's what's next, right? We don't start throwing up the walls. We don't put the roof on first. We start with a strong foundation. In a financial sense, the foundation is cash on hand. It is liquidity. It's savings. It's the emergency money in the bank that allows you to pivot, to adjust, to be prepared for what might happen. Okay? So strong foundation is liquidity, cash on hand, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months of cash reserves available if you needed it, right? And then you start putting up the walls of the house. This might be investments. It might be buying real estate in the future. It might be starting to save for retirement and 401ks, etc. We put up the walls, right? And then we cap it off with a strong, well-built roof. And in my world, that is an income plan. That is a plan for distribution so that you can enjoy an awesome lifestyle in retirement. But you start with protection. And protection is everything from your car insurance to your home insurance to your life insurance to your disability insurance, all of those things that protect your financial house. And you cap it off with a great income plan after you build a strong foundation and you put up the walls, right? The financial world does not teach us to build a house like this. They teach that the solution to everything is invest, 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 invest. The solution to everything is always invest, invest. Now, you might get someone who sells life insurance. So the solution to everything is life insurance, life insurance, life insurance. I'm a big fan of life insurance. I am, but it's not the solution. I'm a big fan of 401k and investment, etc., but it's not the solution. And then you have the real estate investor who says, invest in more real estate, invest in more real estate. It is the answer. It is not. The answer to building a solid financial house is protection, savings, and growth. Protect the castle, build a strong foundation underneath it, liquidity, then you grow it. The walls and the roof all come together properly. Please don't let anybody talk you out of building your financial house the correct way. Put your protection in order first, strong cash on hand and liquidity, then build it. Okay? Now, listener questions and stories. Oh, I've got some stuff to share with you. But first, last week I talked about reverse mortgage as a long-term care plan. And you can go back and listen to that episode. But I want to give a shout out to a listener, Josh. Thank you for contacting me and letting me know that I made a calculation error. I clearly see it after he pointed it out that I had left numbers in the memory on my calculator, that I said a line of credit that starts out at $200,000 grows up to $500,000+ over 10 years. Well, the actual number, and I really so appreciate him, first, listening to the show, second, actually calling me out on it. The answer to the number was that a $200,000 reverse mortgage line of credit will grow up at 5% to $325,000 after 10 years. That's awesome. Just had the wrong number in my calculator, so thank you for pointing that out. Now, here's a question. Okay, so this is a tough one, but I really want to share this. This is a really tough one. This is going to be a hard, I'm going to call everybody to the table and say, hey, you need to make a decision. You need to take some action on this. Be the smart money. Here's my question. What is worse than dying and leaving your family behind without sufficient money to sustain their needs and lifestyle? What is worse than dying and leaving your family behind financially in poor position? I would propose this. What about not dying in the accident and being around to see your family go broke? What if you didn't die in the accident and you end up injured, disabled, can't work, and you're there to see and participate in your family going broke? Okay? So I found out last week that someone that I know, just not a close friend, but someone that I respect, she is a very successful attorney. I know of her. I've known her. I've had, business dealings with her. She's a great, great lady. Her work requires her to travel to court appearances, often long distances, often around the country. She's very successful. She's paid mostly through hourly billing. She's paid very, very well, but she cannot easily work remotely. She and her husband have 4 kids, 2 in college. Okay? Now, why am I sharing all this with you? Well, I'm sharing that with you because when I get to these next 2 things, you'll understand why this is so important to understand that she is the primary income earner. She's a very successful attorney, but her income is hourly driven, travel related, and not easily done remotely. She's got to be there. Sometimes in long distance travel, often on a plane. 4 kids, 2 in college. Her husband is a construction company project manager, and he's been struggling to keep working because he's battling cancer. Yeah, he's battling cancer. He's been able to maintain work, but going through chemo and radiation and everything else, there's just days that he can't function. You go through chemo and radiation treatments and it's like you're out of commission. He's just been really struggling. Thankfully, her income is significant. They've been able to be okay. Now, she was out walking the family dogs one of these nights recently, not long ago, and she stumbled over something in her path. She didn't see it, whatever it was, she stumbled, and the resulting fall broke both of her arms severely. And she is now in full-blown, arms stretched out wide, arm casts, both arms. She's not able to travel. She's not able to work on things. She is really scared about how she's going to be able to continue to maintain her billable hours. And it doesn't look good. It looks like she's going to be down for quite a while. Now, will she recover? Well, yeah, it's just broken arms, of course. But look at the perfect storm. The perfect storm that her husband, struggling right now with cancer, struggling to be able to just stay at work and having a hard time with it, right? And then she, with the weight of the world on her shoulders, financially covering the family, thinking, it's okay, even if my husband isn't able to work, I can keep working and I'll be able to cover the bills and everything will be okay. And then a simple fall, what might be a simple fall, turns out to be a massive, massive income risk. And so now they're looking at what could be a long-term disability for her. It could be months of recovery. Her breaks were really bad. And what if he actually can't get to work? What if battling cancer becomes a full-time job for him? What if he's not able to get there? Okay. What I'm trying to say, folks, is the world is not a guaranteed place. We don't have a promise that everything will work out just perfect. And the actual odds today, I mean, really, you think about this, the actual odds today of entering the workforce and becoming disabled for 3 months or more is 25%. It's 25%. Would you ever get on a plane that only had a 75% chance it was going to make it to Hawaii? That there was a 25% chance that that plane would not make it all the way to Hawaii? Well, of course not. You would never get on that plane, right? So what I'm trying to say is that when we talk about building a financial house, the financial world rarely speaks of protection. Protection. That's the first step. And what is the thing that pays for everything else? The one thing that pays for vacations, the one thing that pays for your health insurance, the one thing that pays for all of the other things like retirement savings and everything else. It is your paycheck. Your paycheck pays for everything else. And I would suggest to you, if you think about it, it's the one thing that is not properly protected in most people's lives. In most people's lives, their paycheck is not insured at all. And in many cases, people will think, I've got coverage. Well, I actually talked to someone recently. They said, I've got disability income protection. Sure thing, no problem. I said, well, how much money do you make every month? Well, I make $8,000 a month. Oh, great. Well, how much disability income protection do you have? $1,500 a month. Okay, so you make $8,000 a month, but you only have $1,500 of that paycheck protected. And you could just see in their eyes, they just, oh yeah, they had never put it together. Nobody thinks about protecting the paycheck. So that's going to be your call to action from me today. Think about disability income protection. Contact me. Go to personalpensionradio.com or go to my LinkedIn page, Kraig Strom, Kraig Strom. Find me through LinkedIn. Find me through Personal Pension Radio. Contact me. Let's have a disability income protection conversation. I'll tell you personally, I have 3 different disability income protection policies. Why 3? Well, because it took me time, took me a few years to build up a really good amount of paycheck protection. And I am confident that if I were broken, if I were disabled, my household and my lifestyle would be okay. Would I be a rock star lifestyle? No, that's not what disability income protection is all about. But would my wife be okay? Would she have to go back to work? No. Would we be able to pay our bills and pay our mortgage and everything? Yep, we're fine. It gives me a great deal of comfort knowing that I have my paycheck, that thing that drives and pays for everything else. My paycheck is insured, right? So I'm encouraging you, contact me so we can have a disability income protection conversation. I am passionate about it. I know that it's not something that most financial advisors and most stockbrokers, they just don't talk about disability income protection. But truly, it is the one thing that we all need to protect, because the paycheck pays for every other protection and retirement savings we have, right? So please, don't skip this. Let's have a disability income conversation. And remember, build your house correctly. Protection, savings, then growth. Don't let Wall Street or anyone else try and tell you to build your house out of order. It will be on shaky ground if you do not build that house correctly. Protect the castle first. So that's going to wrap it up today. Really excited about the episodes coming up. Very much appreciate you continuing to support the show. Share it out. If you'd like the show, give it a great review on iTunes. I would truly appreciate that. Always helps out. And I'll talk to you again soon. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Personal Pension Radio podcast. If you missed anything during the show, that's okay. We took the notes for you. Check the show notes for links, offers, and a full transcript. And don't forget to head over to personalpensionradio.com and download your free retirement income report. While you're there, we would appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening. Now for the disclosure. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended for solicitation, sale or purchase of any security or financial product. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and your tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here. The term personal pension refers to a marketing name designed to educate future retirees and retirees about the economic principles behind creating their own pension-like income. The term personal pension is not intended to be confused with a defined benefit pension plan offered by an employer or by a government entity.